Hola y bienvenido a Learn Spanish en SpanishDict.com. Soy Paralee Whitmire y soy tu profesora. Hoy aprenderás el imperfecto y la niñez, como de niño jugaba con muñecas y saltaba a la cuerda, y mucho más. ¡Vámonos! Bueno, el español tiene dos formas del pasado, el pretérito y el imperfecto. Ya aprendiste el pretérito y cómo hablar del pasado simple en español, como fui al zoológico ayer, leí el periódico esta mañana, etc. Hoy aprenderás de la otra forma del pasado, el imperfecto. The imperfect tense, as you will see, is perfect for describing events in your past that do not have a specific beginning or end. Like that first example sentence. As a child, I played with dolls. De niño, jugaba con muñecas. This is a little different than I played with dolls from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Very specific times and events call for the preterite. The imperfect is, well, perfect for times when time isn't so specific, or it was an action that happened over and over in the past, like mis padres siempre almorzaban a la 1 de la tarde. My parents always ate lunch at 1 in the afternoon. While there is a specific time mentioned, this is an action that happened over an unknown amount of time. The key here is to remember that while the imperfect and the preterite can have the same exact translations in English, like my parents ate lunch, in Spanish, the imperfect gives a very general idea of when something happened in the past. It doesn't have to have a specific time where it began or ended. You will see a lot of phrases like de niño, as a child, a menudo, often, a veces, sometimes, por lo general, generally, todo el tiempo, all the time, and quite a few others. There is a bigger list in the reference section that you can look at, but all these phrases give you the feeling that whatever action follows was something that was done on more than one occasion for an unknown amount of time, in the past, of course. Alright, so that is the general rule for the imperfect. Let's take a look at some of these sentences so you can start using it. Presta atención a las terminaciones. Jugaba con mi oso de peluche cada día. I used to play with my teddy bear every day. Siempre te peleabas en el patio de recreo. You always fought on the playground. Mi hermana saltaba a la cuerda por las tardes. My sister used to jump rope in the afternoons. ¿Ves la pauta? Do you see the pattern? Jugar, pelearse, and saltar are all AR verbs. What kind of endings did these verbs have? Something with aba in it, right? For AR imperfect verbs, all you have to do is take off the infinitive ending, add a, ba, and then add an ending that you're already familiar with. Add an S for the tú form, MOS for nosotros, IS for vosotros, and an N for ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Now, I know, the first and third person singular have the exact same ending, and it may look a little tricky now because you just looked at all of the endings together, but it's usually pretty obvious whether the subject is first or third person by context. So don't worry about it, and be thankful you have a few less endings to remember. Let's take one verb from beginning to end in the imperfect. How about jugar? You played with lots of different toys as a child, so now it's time you learn to talk about it. What's the first thing we need to do to jugar to get it ready for conjugation? Take off the AR. Then, what 3 letters do we need to add to all 6 persons? A, B, A. Bien. So for the first person singular, the yo form, we are already done. Jugaba. Jugaba con bloques cada día. I used to play with blocks every day. Next, for the second person singular, what letter do you think we'll add to jugaba to indicate that you are doing the action? The letter S. Jugabas. Jugabas videojuegos todo el tiempo. You played video games all the time. Then, on to the third person singular. If you remember from the sentence earlier, we aren't going to add anything to this either. It's going to stay jugaba. Jugaba con muñecas. She used to play with dolls. Now we get to the new stuff. What 3 letters do you think you will need to add to jugaba to indicate that we, or nosotros, are doing an action? Mos, M-O-S, jugábamos. Something to notice is that the tilde on the first A. That shows you the accent needs to go on the 3rd syllable from the end instead of the 2nd syllable from the end, which is the most common pronunciation for most verbs. Jugábamos con los muñecos de mi hermano. We used to play with my brother's action figures. Next, we have vosotros. What do you need to add to jugaba to indicate that you, plural, are doing the action? I-S. Jugabais con el tren eléctrico en la escuela. You used to play with the electric train at school. Y finalmente, what can we add to jugaba to indicate that they are doing an action? The letter N. Jugaban en el patio de recreo cada tarde. They played on the playground each afternoon. Pretty simple, right? Let's see if you can get the ER and IR endings with just a little bit of help. Just like the AR verbs, you'll need to remove the infinitive ending. But instead of adding A-B-A, you'll need to add I-A with a tilde on that I. Then you just add the final letters that you just used to the end and you're done. Same as the AR verbs. Let's try tener together. Take off the ER. Add I with a tilde, A. And then add your endings. Nothing for yo. Tenía una tortuga se llama Sam. I used to have a turtle named Sam. Then add an S for tú. Tenías un triciclo rojo. You used to have a red tricycle. And nothing for third person singular. Tenía un cobaya se llama Lily. She used to have a guinea pig named Lily. Add MOS for first person plural. Teníamos muchos peces tropicales. We used to have a lot of tropical fish. Add IS for second person plural. Siempre teníais los mejores muñecos. You always had the best action figures. And last, add an N for third person plural. Tenían muchas pistolas de agua. They used to have a lot of water guns. And that's it. You know 99.9% of all imperfect verbs. I say 99.9% because there are 3 irregular verbs in the imperfect. And this isn't like the preterite, where there are lots of kind of irregulars, or stem changers, or spelling changers. Just 3 little irregular verbs. Ver, to see, ser, to be, and ir, to go. Ver is super easy because it is only irregular by 1 letter. Instead of taking off the last 2 letters of the infinitive, you just take off 1 and then conjugate it as a regular ER verb. Veía, veías, veía, veíamos, veíais, veían. Not so terrible. And ir is just a little backwards. It not only uses the AR endings instead of IR endings, but it is the AR endings with a little change. Just change that first A to an I and you're totally done. Iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, ibais, iban. Super fácil. You'll use the imperfect ir mostly in compound tenses like iba a ver una película, pero leí un libro. I was going to watch a movie, but I read a book. The irregular verb you need to pay the most attention to is ser, which doesn't use either of the regular imperfect endings. Take a look.